Welcome back to the Days Adventure podcast, where every twist in the road leads to a new adventure. I'm your host, David Visser, and today's episode is packed with jaw-dropping moments. It all starts with the crackle of a CB radio, word of a fresh leopard kill, but what we saw next was more than just a hunt. It was strength, strategy, and gravity-defying agility rolled into one unforgettable scene. We also get up close and personal with one of the most unusual birds in Africa, stumble upon a surprise gathering of sharp-eyed mongoose, and witness something straight out of a wildlife fable. Lions, high above the ground, doing something lions aren't exactly known for. Stick with me because episode 6 is a safari within the safari. And as always, the real adventure lies in the moments you never see coming. James set off down the dusty, bumpy road with expertise. Another Big 5 sighting had come in over the radio. This time, it was a leopard with a fresh kill. And it was close. So close, in fact, it only took us about 3 minutes to get there. Now, unlike our previous encounter with the leopard, we weren't jostling for space with dozens of jeeps. Just one other group had beaten us to the spot. Like the first time, the leopard had chosen a thicket as cover, nestled deep within a mound of brush. But this one had outdone itself. It had hauled a full-grown impala high into the branches of the tallest tree in the area. The sheer strength it takes to drag a carcass like that straight up a vertical trunk is hard to put into words. We had our cameras up in seconds, the shutters clicking away, trying to catch that perfect moment. But wildlife photography isn't always so kind. Your subject doesn't pose. It doesn't wait for the light to be just right. And it certainly doesn't care how photogenic it looks from your angle. Most of our shots were from behind, tails, haunches, a paw dangling over the branch, and the legs of the impala. Not ideal, but still incredible to witness. I did manage to catch a short video though, and you can check it out on our YouTube channel, The Days Adventure 1272. We stayed for about 10 minutes, watching the leopard shift around the branches, half hidden by the thick brush, the impala draped below like a grim trophy of the hunt. It wasn't the clearest view, but it didn't need to be. Some moments aren't meant to be captured perfectly, they're just meant to be felt. Then James leaned back and gave us a grin. "You ready for something truly special?" he said. Cameras went down, seatbelts clicked, and off we went, towards a surprise that none of us were expecting, and one we'll never forget. As we pulled away from the leopard and its impala-laden tree, James had that knowing look again. "You're going to love this next one," he said, and with that, we bumped along the trail towards what he promised would be something truly special. But on safari, the journey is just as thrilling as the destination, and the detours, sometimes they're the best part. We pulled up quietly near a shallow bend in the river, and that's when I spotted it, a bird I'd only seen in nature documentaries, standing still like a sculpture on a muddy bank, a hamerkop. At first glance, it looked like some kind of odd heron, medium-sized with brown plumage and a head that seemed to split into a hammer shape, hence the name. But the more you look, the stranger and more fascinating it becomes. The hamerkop is truly one of a kind, the only species in its entire family. Its head crest slopes back into a long bill, creating a silhouette that looks like something out of an ancient petroglyph. Now, they feed on frogs, tadpoles, small fish, and insects, using their strong bills to sweep the shallow water and mud in a rhythmic motion. But the real showstopper is their nests. Hamerkops build massive domed nests, some over 5 feet across and weighing up to 50 kilograms, constructed from sticks, mud, bones, and even human litter. We're talking architecture worthy of an avant-garde design competition. And get this, they often build multiple nests a year, even if they're not breeding, like some compulsive hobbyists who just can't stop renovating. Some of these nests have been found with interior rooms and separate entrances. Other animals like owls and snakes will sometimes move in once the hamerkop has moved on. Honestly, it felt like spotting a celebrity architect in the wild. A few minutes later, we turned another bend and suddenly found ourselves face to face with a banded mongoose troop, forging confidently right near the edge of the road. I mean, close enough that you could hear their sniffles and grunts as they were forging. These weren't the iconic, slender, meerkat-style mongooses you see in cartoons. These were stockier with coarse brownish-gray fur, patterned with darker stripes across their backs. Compact but alert, they moved as one, like a tiny army on a scavenging mission. Mongoose are known for their fierce independence, team tactics, and yes, snake-fighting abilities. Their bodies are low to the ground and they have quick reflexes, making them efficient predators of snakes, scorpions, insects, birds, eggs, and even small mammals. What's wild is that they have a degree of immunity to certain snake venoms. Cobra strikes are not always a death sentence for these scrappy little hunters. But what really struck me was the way they communicated. They chirped, clucked, and hummed constantly, like a tightly coordinated pit crew. One would pause to stand up and look around. Clearly it was the scout, while the others dug and sniffed and grunted along a log. It was mesmerizing. They're intensely social, living in large troops with complex hierarchies, often headed by a dominant female. They may be small, but don't underestimate their intelligence or their courage. And as I watched one mongoose dig up what looked like a grub or a beetle larva, I realized how lucky we were to witness these lesser-seen creatures up close. They're not headline grabbers like lions or elephants, but they're just as much a part of this wild, breathing world. And just like that, we were off again, heading towards whatever surprise James had in store. But even if the day had ended right there, I would have been content. A leopard with a kill, a hamerkop by the river, and a troop of mongoose playing in the dust. Sometimes the in-between moments are the ones that really stick with you. Just before we arrived at the next remarkable sight James had promised us, something caught my eye. Something quieter, softer, but unforgettable. I asked James to slow down, and without needing to explain, he came to a gentle stop. He knew exactly what I was seeing. Out in the open, stretching across a vast sun-drenched plain, stood one of the most picturesque scenes of our entire trip. Roughly 300 meters ahead, in a sea of golden grass, stood a lone acacia tree, its green canopy defying the dry season that gripped the landscape. Underneath that single tree, 2 giraffes, a male and a female, stood like sentinels in a painting. The light was interesting. Harsh midday sun tends to bleach out the landscape, but something about this moment, the angle, the air, the stillness, made the color just pop in the right places. It was like the world had been slightly overexposed, but instead of washing it out, it turned the scene into something dreamlike. The female giraffe had her long neck stretched to its limit, her tongue curled delicately to pluck the highest green leaves. Meanwhile, the male had just started to turn away from the tree. He took a few slow steps in our direction, then paused, glanced back at her, what I swear looked like an amused resignation. It was as if he was saying, "You're never going to reach that. Come on, let's move on." And yet, she was undeterred, still reaching, still trying. I couldn't stop smiling. I raised my camera and framed the shot. Now, if you're watching the video version of this episode on our YouTube channel, you know exactly the moment I'm talking about. I'll go so far to say it's one of my favorite photos of the entire safari. Not because it's dramatic or rare, but because it was so serene. 2 giraffes, 1 tree, a canvas of grassland stretching out into the horizon. A gentle moment of wildness, solitude, and quiet connection. And this is exactly why you come to a place like Tanzania. Not just for the big predators or high-speed chases, but for moments like this, the ones that whisper to you, not roar, the ones that let you breathe and remind you just how massive and magical this earth really is. As I lowered my camera, still soaking in that quiet giraffe scene, James raised his binoculars and went still. That familiar pause, that subtle lean forward in his seat, told us all something interesting had just entered his field of view. "There," he said, pointing to a tree just off to the left, not 40 meters away. At first, I saw nothing but twisted branches and sun-baked bark. But then it clicked. Coiled around one of the limbs, like a thick rope of muscle and shadow, was a rock python. It was massive, curled lazily across the branches like it owned the place, perfectly camouflaged in the dappled shade of the acacia. Now, for those who don't know, the African rock python is one of the largest snake species in the world, and the largest in all of Africa. These snakes can grow over 6 meters long. That's nearly 20 feet, and weigh upwards of 120 pounds. What's wild is how silent and yet still they are. You could easily walk right past one and never know, but once they strike, it's lightning fast. No venom, just brute strength. They're constrictors, wrapping their coils around prey and squeezing until the heartbeat stops. Their diet? Basically anything they can overpower. Impalas, monkeys, monitor lizards, even young crocodiles. In some cases, they've even known to take down small warthogs or antelope. These guys don't mess around. And here it was, right in front of us, not hunting, not feeding, just basking, as if it had claimed the tree as its own personal throne. It was hard to imagine that something so still could hold that much power. Moving on for about 5 minutes, then coming into view was something I'd never seen or heard of. Lions in a tree. You heard me right. Lions in a tree. Still sounds strange, even as I say it, but sure enough, James brought us right to the base of a massive bay boa tree that looked like it had been plucked from a fantasy novel. And there, draped across its thick, gnarled branches like golden ornaments, were 6 lions. At first, we just saw one, a large female stretched out on the highest limb, tail hanging lazily over the edge, her eyes half closed in the midday heat. Then, we came to the slow realization there were more, Beneath her, nestled together like overgrown house cats, there were 3 younger lions side by side, like they had been stacked there for a photo op. Another lioness had sprawled on a lower branch, while the last one had wedged herself awkwardly across a Y-shaped fork, legs dangling, clearly not concerned with elegance. We sat in stunned silence for a moment, cameras up, and taking in the moment. Because here's the thing, lions aren't known for climbing trees. That's usually the domain of leopards. But in northern Tanzania, especially in places like Tarangire and Lake Manera, some prides have developed this rare, almost secretive behavior. It's thought to be a learned trait passed down through local pride dynamics, not something all lions do. Why do they do it? Well, a few reasons. First, it's about escape and comfort. The dry season brings flies, biting tsetse flies that are relentless on the ground. Up in trees, it's cooler and breezier and way more peaceful. Lions also gain a vantage point. They can scan the grasslands below for threats or opportunities. And let's be honest, wouldn't you take a nap in a giant tree if you could? What made this even more special is how rare and unpredictable these sightings are. You don't go out expecting to see lions in trees. It's the kind of safari moment people talk about for years. And here we were, close enough to hear the deep exhale of one of the lionesses as she shifted her weight, causing a shower of dry leaves to fall from the branch. The younger ones looked at us with curiosity, twitching their tails in unison. It was quiet, magical, a mix of elegance and raw power suspended in the branches of a single ancient tree. If you ever wondered what the word awe really means, this was it. I managed to get some great photos and a bit of video footage too. You'll find it over on our YouTube channel at The Day's Adventure 1272. Because trust me, you'll want to see this one. And there we were, snapping photos like paparazzi at a royal wedding. The lions seemed totally unbothered by the attention. If anything, they looked mildly amused, as if they knew just how rare and photogenic they were. At one point, one of the younger lions stood up with a lazy stretch and gracefully padded along the branch, then climbed up to a higher perch and flopped down like a cat curling into a windowsill. The rest stayed draped in their spots, tails flickering, eyes half closed, and all the while the big matriarch, undisturbed queen of the tree, remained on her high throne, not even twitching an ear. She had found the perfect breeze and wasn't about to give up her penthouse view. Then, just as we were beginning to roll away, James tapped me on the arm and pointed across the road. Perched on a slender acacia branch, catching the light just right, was a brilliant flash of color, a bird so vivid I almost thought it was a piece of plastic caught in the tree. But no, it was real. My camera confirmed it, a gray-headed kingfisher. Now, I'll say this, the name does not do it justice. Gray-headed sounds drab, right? But this bird was anything but. It had a fire-orange beak, a chestnut belly, and electric blue wings that seemed to glow when it caught the sun. I mean, it looked as if it had been painted with neon light. Gray-headed kingfishers are one of Africa's most striking woodland birds, but despite their name, they don't rely on water like other kingfishers. Instead of diving for fish, these beauties hunt insects, small reptiles, and even scorpions from tree branches or fence posts, swooping down with sharp precision. They're territorial, monogamous, and often return to the same nesting hole each year. And when they call, if you're lucky enough to hear it, it's a high pitch that rises like laughter over the landscape. It was the perfect punctuation to the lion scene. This tiny, colorful bird watching over the road, reminding me once again that in Tanzania, even the quiet corners hold magic. We stayed with the tree lions for a good 10 to 15 minutes. It was hard to leave. How often do you see 6 lions lounging in a tree like it's a family hammock? But James, with that signature spark in his eye, turned around and said, "Next spot, it's gonna be full of life." And when James says that, you know something special is coming. We packed up our cameras, still buzzing from the kingfisher sighting, and set off once again, bumping down the road towards one of the most important lifelines in northern Tanzania, the Tarangire River. The Tarangire River isn't just a scenic backdrop, it's the beating heart of this national park. Winding for over 200 kilometers, it originates in the highlands of the Babate district and snakes through the park, offering the only reliable source of water during the long dry season from June to October. When everything else is parched and cracked, animals migrate here in huge numbers, drawn like magnets to its life-giving flow. What makes it so incredible is that Tarangire ecosystem supports one of the highest concentrations of wildlife in Tanzania, second only to the Serengeti during peak season. We're talking thousands of elephants, vast herds of wildebeest and zebra, giraffes, impalas, and predators lurking in the shadow. But it's also a paradise for bird lovers with over 550 recorded bird species, more than almost anywhere else on the continent. Historically, the river was also part of a seasonal migration corridor used by pastoralist communities, and in pre-colonial times, local tribes followed wildlife patterns to sustain their livestock. Even today, its role in shaping the rhythms of life, animal and human, is profound. As we rolled closer, the land began to dip, revealing its vast river valley. The anticipation was electric. We didn't know what we were about to see, but we knew it would be unforgettable. This was the moment every safari goer hopes for, a river teeming with life, and for us, a glimpse of something entirely new. In the next episode, we head to one of the most breathtaking stretches of the Tarangire River, a wide open watering area that draws in wildlife from miles around. There, we'll witness not one, not 2, but 3 first-time sightings, including an unforgettable encounter with my all-time favorite animal. Picture birds of prey circling overhead, massive creatures gathered at the water's edge, and a density of life so rich it feels like the entire Savanna has gathered in one place. You definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. But until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop chasing that next great adventure. The world is full of wonders, and your next journey is just one episode away. That's it for this episode of The Day's Adventure. Remember, stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop chasing the next great adventure. The world is full of wonders, and your next journey is just one episode away. To keep the adventure alive, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video versions and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Want more? Hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you'll never miss the next thrilling episode. The world's waiting. See you next time on The Day's Adventure.